Hi, everyone. Welcome to Therapeutic Wisdom from the AKASH and Cosmic TV. For those of you who are new to Cosmic TV, welcome. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back. My name is Laura Mazzotta, and I am an Akashic healer and alchemist, a Reiki master, and a therapist of 20 years. And it is my mission to help lightworkers and therapists with chronic illness. This could be chronic mental illness, it could be chronic physical illness, but getting to a point where they feel empowered, right? Through the deepest level of healing possible and just holding space for them to step into this really vibrant life that they have the ability to live despite the fact that they may have received a diagnosis of some sort. So I am here today to tell you a little bit about Cosmic TV before we talk about chronic illness. Cosmic TV is basically like a spiritual and metaphysical Netflix. And this is something you can find on cosmictelevision.com. You can find it on the App Store. And you'll find other shows like this. You'll find courses and films from conscious filmmakers, basically everything that you could imagine needing for your spiritual and metaphysical journey. So let me know if you have questions about Cosmic TV. I'm going to try to move these comments over. Hi, Kirath. How are you? Just because that didn't work. There's a new format for Facebook Lives, and it's not my fave. So I might just have to follow comments on my phone. So anyway, how's everybody doing today? Say hello. Happy October. How are you? I hope that October is treating you well so far in the however many hours you've been experiencing October. I feel so excited because fall is my absolute favorite season. And I also know that this is really the time right after the fall equinox that we're ushering in a lot of really deep change for ourselves. So this is not just, oh, okay, you've done some inner work and yay, have a good winter, right? It's about turning towards our shadows and turning towards what's coming forward, especially when we have, I think, 6 planets in retrograde right now. So it's really bringing up opportunities for us to get curious, compassionately curious about whatever's coming forward into our field. So this could be emotions, it could be relationships, it could be patterns that keep returning to us, or physical symptoms that keep arising. So this is a really beautiful time to honor those parts of us that we haven't necessarily been putting our full attention to as we've been kind of gallivanting and having fun in the summer, right? So anyway, let me know how you guys are feeling. I'm excited to be here with you today. I was not feeling so well last week. I think it was last week. Yeah, I got a cold, and my son we had just gotten the call for my son to be in quarantine because his friend had COVID. And so I got tested and it was negative, but I just needed to rest and recover. And honestly, I've had this just mild cold all week. So I'm super, super happy to be back with you today. I missed you guys. And oh, it's rainy there, Kirath. Thank you, Petra. 7 planets. I think it was yesterday that I saw somebody posted that it was 6 planets. And I was like, or maybe it was right before Mercury retrograde. So thank you for the update. I appreciate it. Okay. So how many of you have experienced or have a loved one experiencing chronic illness of some kind? This could be physical illness or mental illness, like I said. It also could just be chronic patterns that kind of keep them stuck, right? Or that keep you stuck. So we don't necessarily have to say that chronic illness or disease is, a physical diagnosis that you've gotten from a doctor. It doesn't always work that way, or from a therapist or a psychiatrist or something. It doesn't always work that way, but it's really chronic means 2 years or more and in adults and 1 year or more in adolescents. So I would love to know what experience you have with this and how you've interacted with it, because this is something, chronic illness is such a process. And I actually just did a pretty long post on it that you guys can check out on my page or in Room for Healing, which is my private Facebook group as well. But I've been experiencing chronic illness for a little over 5 years now. And it's something that has been a process. And there's a lot of layers to chronic illness, because when anything shows up in the physical body, it's gone through other fields first that we haven't necessarily fully processed or been able to move through or understood. And what's interesting is that I went to the medical community for the first however many years for the answers, for the solution, right? And that's what a lot of us do. When we get sick, we go to the doctor, right? And so what happened is I was only getting so far, and there was just this really strong tug within me saying, no, you're not, this is not what you're meant for. This is not your future. And so it encouraged me to start looking into other alternative ways of healing. And what I found when I was working with the energy field and working with spiritual healing was healing and expansion and improvement far beyond what my doctors said and far beyond what I even expected, to be honest with you. And that it helped me heal in so many other areas of my life. So what's so interesting about this, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today, is that I truly feel and believe and have experienced in my own life that my work that I do on my spirituality, my energetics, and my mindset are more valuable than anything that I've done through the medical field or the mental health field or in my physical body. Okay. So that is my number one change maker, right? The Akashic Records have been an absolute, I don't want to say lifesaver because that puts me in a position of victim mentality to be saved, right? But it definitely put me in a place for my optimal vitality and well-being, for sure. Okay. But that being said, what was interesting is I almost found that while I was focusing on this and using all of these tools to be able to help myself with my vitality, what I wasn't fully doing to the depth that I desired, I didn't even realize I desired it at the time, was to really understand my physiology as well, right? And this is, I think, what a lot of people overlook. They think, okay, well, I just need to, even in the spiritual world, like we need to see that our bodies and our emotions and our minds are communicating with us in a way that's not necessarily concrete and direct, sometimes symbolic, to help us understand the messages that we need to be able to heal and move through and understand to move forward. And that's all accurate, right? But the problem is we don't want to spiritually bypass. We don't want to ignore the physical container that we are living in, which is our physical bodies, right? And I've never ignored it. And I know a lot of people who haven't, but there's also a deeper level of depth you can continue to go to understand the inner workings of your physiology in addition to your energy, your mindset, and your spirituality. Okay? So one of my questions for you is, if you have something physical going on or even something emotional going on, how well versed are you in the biological underpinnings of what's going on with you? How much are you understanding of the unique systems of your body and how they interact and how they talk to each other and how they work together most efficiently? Are you having conversations with your body? Are you having conversations with your systems within your body? Because once it gets housed, once it gets lodged, let's say, although nothing's fully lodged, we can move anything, it's all energy. But once it gets lodged in your body, it's gone through all these other fields first, right? And so it's still important that we do not negate the physiological pathway that has led us to feeling how we feel physically. Okay? A lot of people that I know who have chronic depression feel this chronic sluggishness, almost like a chronic fatigue syndrome. They'll have some pain, they'll have some tightness in their joints, they'll have brain fog, confusion, right? Those kinds of things can arise even with mental illness. Okay? Which I don't even like using the term mental illness, but since we're talking about chronic illness, I'm trying to put it in context here because I really don't believe in diagnostics in any way, shape, or form. I believe that everybody has their own path. So, for instance, my uncle had pancreatic cancer and he was given 6 months to live because it had spread everywhere, and he lived for 15 years. So you could say, okay, well, this is what comes along with pancreatic cancer. This is the typical pathway. You know, and yes, there may be similarities, but every single human body is unique, right? Every single human experience is unique. So it's really important to understand your own physiology, not just, okay, well, I'm going to read a textbook on how the cardiovascular system works, right? Like, how does your unique physical system operate? Because we all operate in unique ways. I had my gallbladder out in July. And it was interesting because when they went in, they said, oh, there were some anatomical differences with your gallbladder. There were a couple things, but one, like the ducts were like super wrapped around certain areas of my intestines. And it was just like anatomically different, right? We are all anatomically different, every single one of us. So it's understanding that. Kirath says, acknowledge it and accept the challenge before releasing it for self-betterment. I was told my vision was closing, but I changed the treatment for my betterment, holistic versus medical. Exactly, right? You want to get an understanding of who you are at all levels. And when we dismiss the human, my friends, we are dismissing a huge part of our power, huge part of our power. We have so much information that's housed within our physical bodies. It has all of the information that we've experienced in this lifetime, whether we remember it or not. You know, we have, and this is actually happening the other day with one of my doctors too. She was having the same experience I was, which is, you know, a situation will come to you, and it could be a stressful situation or a situation you don't necessarily think you know how to manage, and you manage it beautifully. You're like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, I handled that like a rock star, man. I've got this. I'm solid. And then all of a sudden you start having physical symptoms, right? Your chest starts to hurt, or you're short of breath, or you're tired, or you're weak, or you're nauseated, or something. Because your body remembers. Has anybody read The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk? It's a great book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend that as a good place to start diving into some of this. To understand that our bodies hold on to the trauma not only from ourselves, and I say trauma because that's one of the main things that he works with, but it holds memories of everything that we've experienced. And this includes generations backwards to our ancestors, generations backwards to our past lives that haven't necessarily been fully resolved or come full circle. And so if you have any kind of physical symptoms that are coming forward, I promise you, you are here for big things. You are here for big things, and it has a much deeper root than just what's happened in this lifetime. And so yes, we can get curious about that, but I don't want you to jump into that path of, okay, I'm going to do ancestral healing. I'm going to, oh, thank you, Cassidy, for sharing that link. Hi, Melinda. Good to see you. You can dive into ancestral healing. Absolutely. I think it's critical. You can dive into past life healing. Absolutely. It's critical. If you have anything chronic, yes, it is critical to look at those areas. But do not bypass your human experience. Do not bypass your emotions. Do not bypass your physical body, okay? Because understanding how because your soul chose to come into this container. Like, let me ask you a question. If your soul decided to purchase a home and you moved into that house and you didn't explore anything, you were just like, this is great. This is what I've been given. It fell in my lap. It's great. I have the opportunity to live here and have shelter and be nourished and get taken care of and have heat and possibly even air conditioning and, you know, a bed to sleep in and a space to invite people over and socialize and all the things. Hi, Carrie. Happy Friday, honey. Hi, Layla. I think you're here too, honey. So good to see you. I've gotten so much good Layla time lately. I'm so happy. So you come into this house and you don't necessarily look through it. You're just like grateful for it. Yay, thank you. We can be super grateful for our physical bodies, but then all of a sudden things start to break down, right? So you found this house, you move in, you're grateful for it, but then the boiler breaks, the septic goes, your toilet explodes, the roof starts to leak. And you're like, oh shit, but it all felt so good. And I'm so grateful for it. Well, yeah, you've met that nice vibration as well, but you've neglected the tangible. Your soul chose to be in the tangible form. It chose to be in this physical body. It chose to be in the home that you live in, right? That's why the more that we slow down and get really deliberate about our experience, whether that is navigating our home, navigating our environment, navigating our physical bodies, right? This is another way for us also to cultivate our masculine energy in a way that isn't wounded. There's so much wounded masculine energy in this planet because way back when, men were expected to take care of the women and everybody else. They were expected to be the providers. And then when they couldn't do that, or when they, you know, didn't choose to or didn't desire to, they were frowned upon. And then they developed this kind of machismo and sometimes this I'm going to prove myself kind of mentality or approach, and it ended up developing the wounded masculine. And then there's so many feelings that are coming towards the masculine energy, spite, feeling like you need to be protected against it, right? And so it's really also an invitation for us to get more intimately connected with our physical bodies and more intimately connected with our homes and our environments, taking that slow down opportunity, pause, get really deliberate about getting to know it more intimately. This is why people really practice Feng Shui a lot, right? Because when you practice Feng Shui a lot, you're able to really get an understanding of how does my home flow the best? How does my home operate? And you can do this in your environment as well. Okay, so I know there's a couple comments. Let me check in. Melinda. Oh no. Oh no. See? Yeah. And so that's the thing, right? It's being able to, Cassidy, I love this metaphor. If we ignore a leaking roof, the roof collapses. Just if we ignore the physical, it will collapse. Exactly. You have to decide, you know, it's not just, and I love what Kirath just wrote too, and thank you for sharing out, my friend. Destiny is a choice. How you move forward is up to you. Your ship and you are the captain of your life's journey. Exactly. So it's like, you can't just say, oh, well, it's been predetermined for me, so I can just sit back and eat bonbons and let everything come to me. You know, it is a co-creation. Your soul chose to come here because of the co-creative opportunity, because it's freaking awesome that we get to make choice. It's freaking awesome that we have free will and we get to make decisions this way or another. The divine knows what decisions we're going to make, but we have the choice to make that decision, right? So don't allow yourself to just lay down and say like, okay, I'm going to work on my mindset and hold my crystals and meditate and everything's going to be perfect. Well, it's going to be a hell of a lot better. That I can promise you. But do not neglect your container. And I find that subconsciously, that's what I was doing to a degree, right? I was relying on the medical system. I was relying on even my doctors or my naturopath or even my holistic providers to educate me about the physical body, to educate me about the diagnosis or the process or this, that, or the other thing, right? But guess what? That's all great. That's all well and good. But then there's me. My body isn't like everybody else's body. My mind isn't like everybody else's mind. My emotions aren't the same. My energy isn't the same. So you need to fully embrace that and get curious. And again, lean back. Give yourself the space to be able to do this in a way that's not hurried. You know, in a way that's not hurried. And that's why I am so proud of myself. I'm so proud of making the choice to step back from being wildly successful as a therapist for 20 years with a flourishing practice, with a wait list of 5 to 7 years and say, you know what? I am most important. That's hard to do when you have been committed to success in a certain way, right? To the definition of success either handed to you by your ancestors or by society or whatever. And to be able to say, no, you know what? I'm brave enough to choose me first because none of this exists without me, right? None of it exists without me. And now I only schedule 3 things a day. You know, I'm all over social media because, why am I all over social media? Because I'm doing my own work. I'm learning about my physiology. I'm moving my body. I'm nourishing my body. I'm taking time to create meals, foods, etc. that my body desires and that makes me feel the most vibrant. I'm doing my journaling. I'm doing my sound healing. I'm doing my meditation. So create space. In whatever area that I've discussed today, you feel like you're lacking, or you feel like, oh, thank you for the reminder. I need to check into that. That's not something I'm interested in. You know what? I know you might not be interested in learning about the physiology. Most of the people aren't interested in that because it's daunting, right? It's intimidating to them. It's intimidating to them to learn about it because they feel like they're not educated enough, or they feel like they don't know enough, or it's just a lot. You know, it can be tedious. But take it at your own pace. You know, you're not expected to take an exam on this, okay? It's just start to get curious. If you've had a sore throat for so long, tune into your throat. Yes, you can tune into meditation and ask about that energy in your throat and get more information about it and excavate the lessons that exist underneath it, for sure. But I also want you to understand, what is the anatomical, like how do you understand the anatomical construction of your throat? Well, start just by educating yourself. I mean, Google's fabulous. Just start to get images of what it looks like internally, right? Think about the symbolism of your throat. What does your throat do? It creates sound. It speaks your mind, right? So you're going to look at the symbolism, but then you're also going to look at the actual physiology and understand how that's been impacted. Melinda, the one piece of the puzzle I could not find, my body, finding heaven now, who knew, right? Exactly. So much of our deepest wisdom is held within our bodies. And when we unlock that, it's like the floodgates open, right? Kirath, universal time has a different frequency. Adapting to your own unique frequency. Man-made has no better tomorrow without your consent. That's yummy. I love that so much. Man-made has no better tomorrow without your consent. Exactly. You get to decide this path. You get to be able to move forward in a way that feels empowering, because that's what comes from this, friends. This isn't, oh, I got to put on my big girl pants or put on my big boy pants and take care of myself in an adult way, right? And yes, this is part of reparenting your inner child for sure, especially if you have something chronic going on. I promise you, your inner child is screaming. And your inner child needs and wants to feel safe before that work is done. So how can you make it feel safe? With consistency, with reliability, with giving yourself space to be able to explore these kinds of things at whatever layer you choose to dive into first, in your own timing. And without expectation, without feeling like you have to get it right in a certain way. You're just curious. You're just getting curious and exploring something. Just like if somebody said, hey, I really want to take you to Florida to go on a vacation, or I want to take you to Hawaii. Do you just say, okay, great, book my ticket, here's my credit card? Or, are you paying? No, I'm just kidding. But, it's like if somebody offers to take you somewhere, you're going to say, oh, okay, what time were you thinking of going? What dates? How are we going to get there? Where are we going to stay? What are the activities we're going to do? What kind of clothes do I need to bring? You're going to get information about it first, right? So that's what we want to do with ourselves. If you have something coming up, get information about it first. Gather data and then make your decision going forward. Okay? But you don't want all of your data to be coming from outside of you. You want the data to be coming from within you. And some of that physiological data, yes, we have lab work and blood work and all of those things we can do. That can be part of the process, absolutely. Start to understand how your unique physiology ticks. I highly recommend a functional medicine doctor. That's the best way to start educating yourself about this, and you will learn so much. You will learn so much. Okay, so do you guys have any questions before I hit the road today? And thank you so much for being here. I've accepted a 21-day dance a day challenge. Ooh, I love that. It's been a long time. That's beautiful. Because, and I'm actually really glad you brought that up, Melinda, because that's another piece here when we're dealing with chronic anything, is that you also, in addition to getting to know your physiology, one of the ways we can do that is by moving our bodies, right? So in the unique ways that we move our bodies, it then communicates back to our energy. It communicates back to our emotion. So we can also learn about our physiology by moving ourselves, right? In a way that gives us more information. We communicate with ourselves by moving our bodies. Brittany says, my body has been expanding and I found it's because I don't feel safe. Yes, my body's gaining weight. Exactly. And sometimes, sometimes that happens because we need to insulate ourselves from something. Either it's like a protective mechanism, or we are actually kind of insulating ourselves because we're in a period where we are preparing to go through a huge transformation, kind of like the cocoon around the caterpillar to turn into a butterfly, right? Like we're able to collect these things because we're then at the point where we're saying, okay, you know what? My soul knows, or something about my energy knows, that I'm on the verge of a huge breakthrough, or I'm on the verge of a huge change or transition or up level in my experience as a human being or as a spirit. Right? And so we kind of, just like the same concept applies in puberty, right? That before, right around middle school, that's when body image issues start to develop because kids start to put on more weight. And the reason that happens is because they're about to shoot up right before they enter high school, or right when they enter high school. They're about to have their biggest growth spurt. And so they need to be able to insulate themselves, their organs, their systems of the body, so that when they shoot up in height, they don't lose functioning, right? And so it's actually very biologically and evolutionarily appropriate to have that kind of shift. And the same thing occurs when we're shooting up in our vibration, right? We're going to be putting on weight, or we're going to be insulating ourselves to prepare for what's to come. So let me know if that helps you, Brittany. Oh, Kirath, 36 tablets a day for a medical condition. After 3 sessions with me, holistic healing was reduced to 2 tablets. Yes. Yeah, baby. I love that. That's what I say all the time. I had people that I was seeing for years in traditional therapy. And I started to introduce this. In fact, one of my clients was saying this the other day. Literally within 1 session, they were like, oh my gosh, like within 1 session with you, my entire perspective had changed because we decided to enter into the energetic work and they were open to it, you know? And so it's really the level of efficiency that occurs with this is mind blowing, because you can shoot straight to the core, right? And be able to access it at all these different layers. Yes, I'm going to, like when I work with my clients, I don't just say, okay, what's coming up with you emotionally? Let's deal with it. Or let's, go into the AKASH and focus on the symbolism and what's coming up and what the AKASH is bringing through. It's not just about that. It's about where are you holistically? How's your physical body feeling? Do you have any pain or discomfort? Let's dive into that. Where are you cognitively? Where are you emotionally? Where are you relationally? Where are you sexually? Right? All of those layers are critical. And it's funny because when I started as a therapist, we were taught to do assessments in that way, to touch base on all those layers, right? But it was still surface level. It was just kind of like gathering data and then you give them tools rather than saying like, okay, now that I have the data, I'm going to dive in super deeply to the core root cause of this and we're going to clear it. Yes, Brittany, I love that. And this is actually a time when a lot of people are just kind of like burning it all down and starting fresh. Very, very normal right now. A lot of people are going through that. You are not alone. I love that way of looking at weight gain. I will use that. Yep. Yeah, and it's something that just like when we are called to doing our shadow work and looking at the things that might make us uncomfortable and we have to turn toward them to work through it, to move forward, we want to do the same thing when we have physical discomfort or weight that we're putting on, right? Where we turn toward it and say, okay, there's clearly a shadow there, or there's clearly a lesson there that I need to clear. Don't turn away from it and just say, okay, I'm going to take a Tylenol or an Advil and move on. Right? The other day, oh my gosh, see, and I'm proud of myself every freaking time that I do this. Every time. A migraine was starting. And I know what migraines mean. Migraines mean that you're in too much go, 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 push, push, push energy. And I'm like never in that energy anymore. It's funny. I had migraines my whole life. I haven't had migraines at all for like 6 months. I don't need to knock on wood, but that was just a funny. But yeah, well, actually it's been longer than that, longer than 6 months. I haven't had any migraines. And it's because I understand it now. It's because I understand my energy so much more, right? And to be able to say, and honestly, it's funny because emotionally I was able to shift things right away. And cognitively I was able to shift things right away. But your physical body, again, that's denser energy. It's more condensed, right? So it takes more time. So I've been doing this work for a while, but now I'm like, oh, I'm so excited because I had this migraine starting and I was like, I know what that means. So I need to lay down, put on my healing tones, breathe really deeply into it and turn toward it. So I turned toward it. I identified, what does that energy look like? How big is it? What does it feel like? What is it trying to tell me? What are the messages coming from it? Boom, gone. Gone. I used to pop migraine pills 6 times a month to help me with them because I've had them since high school. I've had them for 3 decades. So that's my encouragement here, is to remind you that turning towards these things, whether you're turning towards the weight, you're turning towards the physical symptoms, turning towards the emotional symptoms, is key. But make sure that you either have a support network or you feel really safe when you're doing that, especially if you have chronic illness. Because again, this is something that's been condensed over time and it's not going to go away right away. And I promise you've got some deep shit to work through. Okay. And you're not going to be able to dive in deeply enough if you don't have the right support or safety to be able to do it, because your inner child and your energy is still going to be holding back a little bit or still hesitate a little bit because it's not feeling fully grounded. So there's so many different ways that you can ground and activate that feeling of safety. And if you have a really solid support network in your life, awesome. Activate it, put it into motion for sure. If not, I do have space for one-on-one client right now, just one-on-one client. And my passion is to lead people through. I mean, I love my group programs, but to really be able to dive deeply with one person, get really intimate and connected and guide them from that that dis-ease of whatever form, to starting to feel relief, and then feeling better, and then feeling confident, and then feeling empowered, and then doing that for other people is absolutely, it's life-changing for me every single time one of my clients does this. It's so exciting. So I encourage you to reach out to me via DM if you want to do that. We can also chat on the phone. I have a free Power of Connection call, so we can chat on the phone about that too, and just feel into each other's energy. And I can get an idea of where you are and what you desire and what you need. And I have to be honest, I know a ton about the physical body at this point. I know a ton about the physical body, not yours in particular. And that's part of the process, right? Is learning about yours, whether you have a really well-rooted chronic illness or not. Getting to know your physiology is critical for prevention as well, right? Like, don't necessarily wait until you're having chest pain to understand your cardiovascular system. Just start to get curious. Be a student of yourself. And let me know how that lands. I love you guys. I really missed being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to be here live next Friday too at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So I look forward to seeing you then. Definitely keep your eyes peeled. The day before is when I post what the AKASH wants to bring forward and what they feel is really in the best interest for all to receive. So I really look forward to seeing you next week. Let me know if you want to chat about the one-on-one, and I would love to connect with you, because if you're watching this live or on the replay, you definitely have this tug and this pull to go deeper. And I would love to guide you through that. I have multiple different levels at which we could work together, but the one-on-one is definitely going to be the deepest dive into shifting chronic patterns. Because again, chronic is something that's condensed over time. So have patience with yourself, please. Know that this is a process. Celebrate every freaking step of your process. Every step you take, celebrate it, okay? Because what we focus on expands, and that's gonna help you move forward. It's gonna give you some momentum, okay? So I love you so much, and I will see you next week.